my mind, no. Change my mind, 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 no. Change my mind, change my mind, change my mind. Lost in the song, been moving the earth along. I won't know what she needs to be. Change my mind, change my mind, no. Change my mind, change my mind, change my mind, change my mind. Run away, run away, run away, run away, run away, left it all behind. Run away, run away, run away, run away, run away, run away, left it all behind. Change my mind, change my mind, no. Change my mind, 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 no. Change my mind, change my mind, change my mind.
what's on the other side of that wall.
It's fucking scary. I'm not gonna lie. Come on now.
Third is at the beginning, our interaction with them to some sort of a higher dimensional place. Are we alone, and what happens when we die?
And now for something completely muonic.
Yo, yo, yo. What's up, What's up, everybody? Welcome to Space from the Deep, episode 28, Non-Dual. If you've ever been in the ECU and you've heard the phrase non-dual, you know a little bit about what a non-dual existence means. We might dive into that today. We might not. Non-dual is the reason that we're here. We've got a couple of special things to announce today, but we also have Aneroth returning, which is we are very grateful for Aneroth returning because he's got the muonic wisdom that we all want, that we all know and love. So he's bringing always good perspective on the industry. He's bringing good perspective on the world of production, the world of animated production, and all those good things. So he's back. We've got Rain and Jake in the muonic seats. We are ready to kick it off for episode 28. So I'm going to jump over to all four of us and then pipe all of our audio in. We should be good to go. Hopefully the stream is also a little bit smoother today. By the way, we did a couple of tests this week, so sorry if there was any confusion if we were live and you saw us. That was just a test. This is the real show. This is where we go deep. This is Space in the Deep 28. Let's jump over to the boys. Okay, we're all here. What's up, fellas?
Yo! What up, what up?
What up, what up? Okay, I think we're
Okay.
yeah, we're good. We're good. Okay, it should be smooth. We're all in. Episode 28. Fourth live show. Getting our format fixed. Going through the chaos. Loving the green candles. All the good things. Market's in a good spot
True.
right now. I think that you see a good uptick in people's energy in the space when you see the market doing good green things, which is it's great. I always love like the positive energy, but I also think that a lot of people who have been around, they're like, oh shit, like we've been preparing for this, which is really cool to see. We've got community members who
True.
have been in and they know that we've been building this entire time. And it's always like the trope of you build through the down periods is like, you know, it is a trope for a reason, but if you really do it and you really stick to it, it feels like when you come out on the other side, you start climbing out of the trenches, you know, you got your brothers in front of you, everyone is here, you got the Berts, the people who have hung on for dear life, and now it feels like truly onwards and upwards. I don't want to spit in the wind, but at the same time, it seems like there's a lot of good happening in the market. It seems like base is getting some good attention. It feels like, you know, we don't talk about the market much, but on big upswings like this, it feels like we've hit some sort of an inflection point with the market, with the state of things, and kind of just maybe people's perspectives of base, which feels like it's been kind of on you know, shaky ground for a little bit, but it feels maybe like we're through it. What do you guys think?
Well, let me set the tone real quick. I got to talk about base first. I defer. Aneroth, go.
It's an obligation to talk about base.
Yep.
I mean,
gotta
I can say that I was in FarCon last week, so Jesse Pollock was there. Huge focus on like people building on base, specifically mini apps. Like if you're on the Farcaster side, and really just helping like people understand that a mini app is like your testing ground to get to a place where an app is. I think one of the things that got AnyChain a lot of success is how do you attract developers and builders that actually want to create things. And like when I looked at base and Farcaster and like the ecosystem, I would say 2 months ago, it reminded me a lot of like 2008, 2009 App Store, where like you have a whole bunch of shitty apps. Like there's a couple that you might fuck around with, but like Steve Jobs famously said, like, hey, I don't need any more fart apps on the App Store. Like, can you build something? Like, can you make something real? And like, you're really starting to see like real apps starting to come around and like a different way for people to create something. And when you say like base was a little bit on shaky ground and now kind of coming into this other place, I think the focus that Coinbase has to make it a relevant ecosystem, to bring these people on chain, but also they demoed Coinbase Wallet, the new and improved one, and I got to try the beta version of that. And it includes the Farcaster social feed as like the homepage when you
Yeah.
open Coinbase Wallet. So it looks just like Twitter, like exactly like Twitter or X or whatever. It highlights video-based content in a way that like you don't normally see those things. And I think if you're looking for an ecosystem to gain traction, to attract builders, to make people feel like this is something that's going to be sustainable and grow, you need to actually have something for them to do. And it needs to be more than just gambling and slot machines. Like it's got to be more than that. And I think what's interesting to me is builders are starting to recognize on Base specifically, you don't need to create a brand new idea. You can take an idea that exists in Web 2 and just have it have crypto rails for the first time and get people to adopt something different.
Yeah.
And as a whole, like larger corporations aren't going to be able to pivot into having crypto rails as quickly as a startup is going to be able to in these next couple years. So like if you're thinking about building stuff right now, like one, Base is a good place in my opinion because you have one of the largest corporations, despite the fact that their earnings kind of sucked yesterday. You have one of the largest corporations that is backing it. They want to see it succeed, and they're going to help give attention and clicks to whatever you're creating. So in that sense, I think it's a positive thing for Base right now. Does it have more work to do? Absolutely. Is it where I would like it to be? No, not so much just yet. But it's hard to say I would want to build somewhere else other than there right now if I were creating something.
Yeah. It feels like the place, if you actually need to build and actually build a business, it feels like the one place that you actually can do that. I mean, and again, I don't want to admonish or disparage other chains. And like, you know, I've always loved Avalanche. You can build things on Tron. Like it is possible, but it's more of like, I guess being in it and understanding the fabric and the mentality of how things are kind of pushed here and what people are encouraged to do. As a founder, it feels like if I need to build something, this feels like the best place to do it. The interesting thing that you mentioned, Anurath, and this is also like part of maybe the bigger conversation, is that one of their main, say like an ethos, something that I often see them kind of pushing is just this idea of the bridge between the Web 2 and the Web 3 worlds, and then also starting to create things that almost like Trojan horse Web 2 users into the Web 3 ecosystem, right? So it's like, oh, well, this is just a social app, so I'm going to use this, and then before I even know it, I'm in Web 3. Or this is just an IP, this is just a movie that I really enjoy, or this is just a show that I really enjoy, and before I even know it, I've bought my first NFT and I didn't realize it, right? And it's almost like I'm not trying to give people less credit than credit is due, but at the same time, it feels like their mentality has always been to onboard as many people into Web3 as possible, not to cater to the people that are already here and to cater to kind of that gambling mindset. That initially, if I go like way back, like when I was considering what chain to launch eBird on, it was really because of that. And that I feel like has stayed really consistent over the last year. It's just that they keep coming back to this place of we want to create things that make it really easy for people to find their way into crypto. I wanted to just make an example too. You guys know that we've entered a strategic round of fundraising. We're using a proof of concept and all different sorts of materials to, raise funds to start scaling Who is eBird. And the first question and really the first concern that I met with really this past couple of weeks has been, well, I'm not really into the crypto thing, or like I'm not really, I don't really know much about NFTs, or it's like there's trepidation. Still to this day, and that's with a spectrum of people that I know, all the way in, people into their 60s, all the way from people into their 20s and 30s. Like, there is still a little bit of, there's friction to kind of moving people into the space. And the analogy that I always use is, well, forget about the crypto thing for a second. Forget about the fact that we use these rails to actually create the approach to scaling an IP that we are creating. Forget about all that. Just think if you could buy a piece of fill in the blank franchise before it became fill in the blank franchise, right? And that seems to be turning the scales for people. And it seems like Base and Coinbase are looking to do really just that. That feed looks like something that people are familiar with. You jump onto it and you're like, oh, I already know how this works. That's, I think, where it's like, okay, they're onto it. And it feels like the wallet app shouldn't even be called the wallet app anymore. I feel like it should just be called like the Base app or something, or like just something that is like this like a super app, and that feels more appropriate.
I think we're getting there. Honestly,
Yeah.
I think that's exactly where they're going with it. Like it is going to be like the alternate version to X with apps built in, one-stop shop. You can pay Privy, who does a lot of like the onboarding stuff for Web3. Like basically you put in your email address, they create a wallet for you. They demoed something at FarCon where they were able to use the embedded wallet within Farcaster to use tap to pay through NFC to purchase things. And like if we can get tap to pay for crypto transactions and native wallets, like that is a big step forward to also helping the base ecosystem get to a place where it's like, yeah, you can buy and sell things with ease here. Like I'm trying to get my local wine shop to add like a crypto payment option on there.
Yeah.
And like I'm talking with the Privy people next week. I'm like, I want to understand this better, right? Like how do we actually help push like the ideas that are happening here forward? And like as a whole, like that's what excites me about this space. I think that's what's exciting about Base is you're gonna be met with other people trying to create something new, and they're super willing to talk to you about it, right? Like they don't know what they're doing either, and they're like, cool, let's figure this out. Maybe I'll walk away with a learn. And like if you're a curious person or you want to figure some stuff out, like what better place to be?
Exactly. No, I couldn't agree more. I could not agree. I have so many thoughts on it too. But I think that the key is there are two things, and I wanted to kick over to Rain and Jake because I'm curious because Jake, Anroth, I guess today was really the first time you met Jake. So I'll let Jake fill in the blanks, but Jake's been in the space for so long. For like what? Like Jake, like 2010? 2011? Like
Yeah,
13
15 years,
14?
man. Insane.
He's got like
Insane.
transactions on the original, like, you know, on Bitcoin, like, you know, OG blocks of Bitcoin with like Satoshi. Like he's been around. So I think that we're seeing this really interesting evolution where the products that are being presented to people need to be good enough that anybody would use them. And it just so happens to be, okay, well, the way that you now access and interact with this application that you like, because anybody would like it, is using USDC payments on Coinbase Wallet or, you know, whatever. Like that feels like, okay, well, that's the one point of friction that you need to get people past. But if the app is good enough, if the IP is good enough, if the story is good enough, if the game is good enough, they're going to do it, right? Because then that's where the technology comes in. That's where the building comes in. And the building is, and I've said this in the past too, the most elegant building in the world really creates the simplest solutions for people to get from A to B. And I think that when people are like, okay, well, this is the one thing I'll just buy some USDC with my debit card. I'm in. Great. Done. Oh, I can like buy this piece of artwork, or I could buy this token for a game or whatever it may be. So I think that, you know, I wanted to kick it over to Jake, but before I do that, it's the quality of the apps. It's the quality of the art. You know, shout out to projects like you guys just saw the Dude launch. Shout out to Doodle and Burnt Toast. Like, I mean, it's just unbelievable artwork, and they've been in it for years. Shout out to Pudgies. Shout out to A Kid Called Beast. Big shout out. I don't know if Dez is in the audience today, but like he's a big fan and has told me a little bit about A Kid Called Beast. Like, great project, really cool project with like a lot of 3D art, and they're kind of unlocking people's creative side just like we do. And like we're in the infancy stages of Ebert, and they've really developed a great ecosystem for A Kid Called Beast. And these are the projects that the public will find and say, wow, I saw this on a billboard in Soho, and I want to check this out. Okay, how do I do that? I scan that QR code on the billboard, and all of a sudden it brings me to the Base app, whatever it is. Okay, cool. Like you can just see how that could be Ebert in a way. And I think that we have the rights, and for those in the audience who don't know, we're trademarked and copyrighted on everything. So we have exclusive licenses to all of our artwork because we made our artwork. So we can do whatever we want with it. And that, I think, is, you know, as this divergence happens and as these products start to get more and more elegant, the ownership of the IP that you market with is going to become that much more important. So, Jake, what do you think? What are you thinking as a builder, as an OG, as someone who's been in the space for so long? You're seeing these evolutions. You're seeing these things come to light. What are your thoughts? How are you reacting to all this?
I got lots of bird thoughts to put in here. Yeah.
Let the nuance flow, baby.
Oh, man. So it's interesting what you were talking, Anroth, about the micro apps in a way as your test bed for market reaction and a way to develop and deploy, you know, really a greater functioning app. And it's not really theorized. It's been talked about for, I don't know, maybe a good solid 5 to 8 years now of middleware and microservices that make your consumer operating experience that much more seamless in life. And it's a very hard problem to solve because consumers, users were inundated with apps and advertisements being pushed in our face all the time, right? And so now if you're asking us to, essentially to go down and load a new app, it's a little overwhelming. It's burdensome now. So there's behavioral analytics that we need to bake into this, right? How many times do you guys go get a new copy somewhere and they're like, hey, download our app for our new point system. And then you're like, oh, God, I have 15 of these. I'm done with it. I don't want another app punch card. So middleware microservice containers have really risen to the top. And, along with that, Web3, I feel, is a native answer to middleware and microservice implementation. It's kind of how the whole thing shebang started, right? Bitcoin's evolution. One of the main canons of the original Bitcoin protocol was to prevent and avoid wire transfers. I mean, just keep it at the basics. Wire transfers from bank accounts. Like that was one of the original canons of the BTC protocol because it's absurd that if you want to wire money from your own account, you got to pay $20 to $30 to your bank to do it. How insane, right? And it's your money. So stupid. And you're enriching wealth advisors and wealth management folks when we all know the common sense approach is that's insane. Why are we doing this? Can we build something better of a bridge? And I think Web3 was the answer to that. Base, on the other hand, though, and hearing the super app, it's really got me excited because my mind went into, this could actually turn into a full-blown social media suite with native Web3 integrations. And all information is tokenized directly in the application itself. But because Coinbase owns Base, outright, there is luxury that Coinbase, I believe, has at its disposal of, well, maybe not charge for every single push or commit to the chain. It's just simply on the chain as it expands through our DeepN hosting providers. And I believe you're also going to see a rise in DeepN. Which is decentralized physical infrastructure. You're going to see a rise in your DeepN colos over time. That should be more native Web3 hosting and application. So, I see where you're going at, Roth. It reminds me also too of, say kind of the early Ethereum days when like new EVM apps were starting to come up from Vitalik Buterin's whole philosophy of creating kind of replicating the Apple App Store within blockchain. And they did well for a certain amount of time. And EVM is still certainly in propagation. That's why, Base and Optimism are so close with an EVM rollup strategy into the chain. So it's easy for builders to develop, right? We don't want to learn some new freaking language that we just have to push now. It's burdensome. Yes, we have Golang. Yes, we have Rust. Yes, we have Solidity. Yes, we have React and Java. And okay, cool, got it. We don't need another freaking language, but also the inclusion of AI is removing this barrier, especially with software fuzzing and testing. I don't know if you've seen, like on some apps now, just building a full coded application in Cursor, for example, you can do that in 20 minutes. Right? That's wild stuff, guys.
It's crazy.
Wild stuff.
Vibe
and on
coding.
chain.
Vibe coding to make an app. Like, I don't know how to code, but like there's a really good chance that I'm just going to get out of my own way and build a mini app because I want to know how.
Yeah.
Right? Like that mindset of how am I using the tools that are available to me today if I want to do them. And I think what we're seeing for all chains, not just Base, is exactly what Jake's talking. It's like this barrier to entry. So really it's on you. Like, do you have the will and desire to go and create something? Yes or no? If the answer is no, that's fine. Like, that's cool, whatever. But don't tell me you can't anymore. Like, I can't create something doesn't exist. You can create whatever you want. Like, you can make whatever you want at this point. It may be trickier in some ways or another, but you could at least get started. And I think that more than anything is the biggest difference of where we are today when people think about, can I make something? Can I build something? Can I do something versus 3 years ago? Because 3 years ago, you're like, nah, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
So shit. And now it's, I'm going to ask Cursor and ChatGPT and I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that is a really interesting point just on kind of like where we are. And also like, who do I want to be around at this point?
Yeah.
Right? Like if you have access to all of the things to do the thing that you want and you choose no, you're probably not going to be the type of person that I want to spend time with right now, because you're not going to help push me to where I want to go, which is doing all of that shit.
100%. 100%. And I think that in the past, and this goes for building anything and everything, that in the past there's been this kind of like fear created for people who want to build like a production company or a film studio or an animation studio, that it's impossible to do that, or like there are these barriers to entry in the form of gigantic amounts of capital in order to like make these things real, or even application building, whereas like in the past, like if you didn't know how to use Swift, you couldn't code an app for the App Store. Like there was this barrier to entry, and now these barriers are being dissolved, and what's left is really our ability to just be creative. It's almost like the water in the tank has been drained to the bottom, and all of the coral and all the stuff that's left is basically just the muons. It's just our creative energy. So it's like either we choose to deploy that and deploy it in new and novel ways, or we default to doing the things that we've always done in the past, which are maybe a little bit more robotic, And I think that I'm really excited where these things start to become easier, because people start to realize, well, if I could do that, then I can do anything. I can make a whole character franchise on chain, or I can make a whole game and like do it this way. And then like all of a sudden you start flocking around people who are like, wait, no, you're doing that too? Okay, yeah, we're really early in this. Like we're on the front end of this curve, but like at the same time, like we know where things are headed, and we see how these builders kind of mentally are starting to build the framework for making things easy and making things scalable and making things available. And like that for me is like the most exciting thing to be a part of. Like I'm stoked for like there needs to be some sort of a separation where people can get the gambling itched in this space, but at the same time there needs to be opportunities for people to learn that, well, this is a new way of commerce. This is a new way of doing business. It's a new way of building businesses. It's a new way of interacting with media. And I think that like I'm really excited for that stuff to rise to the surface a little bit more than kind of some of these knee-jerk reactions that I'm seeing really in my personal network with friends and family when they talk about crypto. It's I don't want to like okay. So it's like you got to get people kind of past that line and say, well, no, actually, whoa. I did 12 years in the traditional world, and now I'm here, and there's obviously a reason. So Rain, it's a good opportunity to kick it to you too, because game development, everything that you've been working on, a huge week for you too. And I feel like this is a demarcation of some of these really, really important milestones that the gaming space in Web3 is now kind of accomplishing. So where do you see it? Like these new integrations, the new base integrations, the new Coinbase wallet, like, it's how do you see this going forward? Are we moving past the degen mindset, or is it just, is it just going to be a part of everything that we do, and we'll all kind of exist in the same bubble?
Yeah. Great question. I'm thinking about how I want to go about this, because I can really dive into it. The first thing I'll say is at this point, I'll give myself the title of I am an industry expert. When it comes to gaming in Web3, everything I have predicted over the past 2 years, everything that I've seen, everything that I've done, everything that I'm building, I've been spot on. I've been absolutely spot on. And this isn't, me trying to brag or anything like that. It's just to give a bit of credibility, and I'll give some examples into this and have it paint a bigger picture here. And the reason I have to say that is just because you guys know me, I'm very transparent, but in a lot of spaces, and especially in Web3, people just love to just blow smoke, fucking just bullshit and say this wild shit and predictions and blah, 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 blah. And at the time, I'm not going to lie, I go to spaces or, listen to people talk and shit, and I just, either I tell them to shut the fuck up, or I'm like, God, this guy is just on a rant about a bunch of fucking nonsense. There's no validity in this. There's just nothing. It's all speculation. And Anybody in crypto and Web3 can fucking speculate. That's the beauty of it, the mystery of it. I could say Bitcoin to 1 million. Oh, it doesn't go to 1 million. Well, one day it will. Oh, wow, you're a fucking genius. Fantastic stuff. So when it comes to where we're going as a society, this was kind of one of the really big things I wanted to highlight initially. I've said it from literally the beginning of this year, and not to get political, but again, it is important with Trump being president and his big push to make, the USA, the crypto capital, super powerhouse of the world, all that shit. I put a massive emphasis on, especially my Web2 clients and big investor groups, etc., that we're going to see the big retail push of adoption into crypto, this year, a big push. And I've been saying it, and it's funny because it's been happening, a lot in the back end. Like you have Visa consistently exploring crypto adoption, MasterCard exploring crypto adoption, because they all know, okay, whichever, POS system gets into crypto first, it's just going to capture a whole new massive amount of trillions and trillions of dollars in fees. It's a fucking no-brainer. But to get like more front-facing, there was an announcement today, 2 hours ago, actually, that on May 14th, all Steak and Shakes will be accepting Bitcoin as payment. Every single Steak and Shake across the United States of America will be accepting Bitcoin as payment. And I fucking love it. I absolutely fucking love it. Good for Steak and Shake.
Steak and Shake's big
Good
in like
for
the
them.
Midwest, right? Like Ohio.
Huge
in Ohio.
I live in Michigan. Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm going to go to Steak and Shake and I'm going to buy whatever the fuck, with a fucking Bitcoin.
Just because you
I'm
can.
going to support the troops, man.
Just because you can.
And then I'm going to eat it. I'm going to make a video and be like, I fucking told y'all, crypto adoption, it's coming. I'm at Steak and Shake eating my Bitcoin burger. You know what I'm saying?
Happening.
But like it's so much bigger than that though. And if you lift the veil, and this is what I've been saying for so fucking long, and Eric and Jake, you can attest to this, says so many times, but you guys have heard my thoughts and theories on GTA 6, right? Grand Theft Auto 6, the newest, biggest fucking, the quote unquote, the biggest game that's ever going to happen ever in the history of fucking ever, right?
I don't
Familiar?
know if
Are we
you ever
familiar with
gave
this?
me your full. I'm curious. I don't know. I don't know if
Okay.
you and I talked about it.
Okay,
I'll
I'll break it
seen
down.
The trailer. I've seen everything about it.
So, so gaming is going to crypto. Yeah, 1,000 million, 100 billion times fucking percentage. And there's two main big points about that. The first one is that in the Web2 market, the highest earners over the past 3 years in video games have all been independent studios. And what I mean by that is from a profit margin, right? Like obviously, if you're Call of Duty and you invest $300 million and you make $500 million, okay, you only made $200 million profit. You made what, like a 60% or no, 110% increase on profit revenue for your costs, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. But independent game developers building their own games in studios, past 2 years, you have Pal World, like a 10,000x for what they've put in. You have Dark and Darker, again, multi-million dollar franchise. All these games I'm naming, by the way, these are all games that were made with $200,000 or less on a team of 10 to 20 people maximum.
Damn.
And a lot of them being their first ever games. Last Epoch, another one. They made a game that basically competed directly with Diablo 4. They just did everything that the people wanted Diablo 4 to be. And so they made a fuck ton of money off of it because people are tired of this, I don't want to say, corporate flooding, but I'd say more so this predatory concept of not listening to your community and extracting as much as you can, and people are tired of it. So I'm going to shift over now into this mass adoption. It's all going to make sense here in a second. But so there's been speculation and stuff, but no one has proof. But I've said it from the get-go. GTA 6, which now we have a release date for, is going to be on. I would be shocked if it. Oh, I can't say that. Never mind. Can't say that.
You were about to close the
GTA
circle.
6.
I was like, this is
Yeah.
it.
And I can't say that. What I will say is GTA 6 will have a token. It'll have a token. It'll have NFTs in some way, shape, or form. And the reason why is because, so again, a little history on this. GTA 5 was super successful. Rockstar Games made a shit ton of money off of it. But a company called 5M, which basically does like modded versions of GTA. You can build your own servers, your own lobbies. Think of like Minecraft.
Yeah.
Right. You build your own Minecraft world, right? And you can have people pay you real money for like these types of cars or these types of perks, whatever the fuck. And these mods make it much, much more immersive. Right. And so when 5M came out and adapted this modding community, it took over GTA, and they were all making a shitload of money passively. Like, I'm talking billions and billions of fucking dollars to these independent people. So much so that 5M, it was a group of guys, they built their own company. They literally built their own company called 5M, absolutely skyrocketed. And so now some of these servers actually had their own token integration. They created their own token. They used it as their own economy within the game, and the tokens are all very successful. So Rockstar Games actually acquired 5M. They bought them out. They kept like 95% of all the employees on 5M and are using them to build GTA 6. Now, that's the first part of this. Now, the second part of this is that Rockstar Games with GTA 6 and their marketing approach, they're always very cryptic. They love to play off hype. They always have leaks of certain things come out, which if you're an entity that fucking big, I've been in the industry for a very long time at every level. There's no such thing as a fucking leak. Okay. It's on purpose. They're putting it out there on purpose on some random burner account. Fucking James 31003 with 10 followers. He didn't hack GTA fucking 6's data source. Okay. He fucking got it. It's a burner. It's a marketing scheme. Cool. Now we all know. I told everyone, I said, if you correlate GTAs, they're doing a subliminal marketing approach to where when crypto is in the green and something big is happening, or there's a big push alongside with crypto, et cetera, whatever, like something massive happening, like you see Bitcoin at 100K or 110K or whatever, GTA has released some type of leak, some type of trailer, some type of something every single time that's happened, every single time. And the biggest proof is the moment Bitcoin hit over 100,000 now, and now we're at this new threshold, this rebirth per se of the bull market entry. GTA releases their release date. They release their official trailer. They release, all these interviews and everything about the game in preparation for this. So I am a billion % sure that gaming by the end of next year will be all fully mass adopted in crypto. And I'm not going to go into why or how, like it makes the most sense for it to be on crypto. It just fucking does. Okay. It does. Simple explanation for people listening. Imagine you played World of Warcraft and, your skins were NFTs, or the gold that you had was a crypto token, et cetera. It creates much more value. It creates more overall economy transactions, which makes, the game more money. And then also it keeps players in the game, playing the game longer, which ultimately leads to more money for your game as well. It just makes very sense. Easy concept.
It just makes sense.
It is. I'm telling you, it's coming. It is. Yeah. We will have, mark my words, next year, by the end of next year, we will have full AAA Studios mass adoption, fully onboarded and embedded within primary central exchanges. That's how it's going to be. Like, keep your eye on Blizzard, keep your eye on Activision, keep your eye on Rockstar. I guarantee you they would be partnering with central exchanges.
Can you
and so, yeah, I know I wanted a big ramble there, but I had to paint the picture.
Can you imagine how much more addictive WoW would have been if you had real ownership over the purples and an orange? Do you know how I would have lost my shit? Like, I think the appetite for the things that crypto offers to people in a collector's mindset is so high that it's impossible to disagree with you. It's impossible to disagree with you. The timing, it sounds about right. And again, I think a lot of people have been talking about, like Alex Becker talks about the gaming mass adoption constantly, and he's been harping on it for a couple years, more even, because he was big into game. It's just, it really does make sense. And I think that I can use only anecdotally myself as an example of someone who, if I'm gaming and I have real ownership over the items that I'm collecting, the quests that I'm completing, if there's a currency that then translates into money that I can make, my appetite for the game is not only going to be higher, but my appetite for interacting with the space that the game is based in is going to be way higher too. And I think that for us, and it's, my role here is to always tie it back to Ebert in some way, just so you know. But I think that the beautiful part of original IP franchises rolling into this is how can original IP and film franchises roll into this appetite? How do we integrate with games, and how do we do like a secret launch of merch, or how do we have that kind of street culture, streetwear culture type of release thing going on? Like, how do we do that with what we're making? Because that hasn't existed, in my opinion, in like the traditional franchise world for characters, for movies. It's always just been like, production house gets a trailer made, trailer goes to wherever, and then people absorb the trailer and go to the movie. How else can we kind of tickle that appetite? And I think that we're here for that reason too, amongst everything else. I think that that's a really important thing to kind of tie in, just because we have this opportunity to do things differently, and that's one of the big reasons that we're here, is to make things in different ways. So I 100% agree with you. And it gets, I think anyone in the audience, like, it should get your imagination going when Rain talks about games, because you should always be tying back what he's saying to, okay, well, how does that apply to Who is Ebert? How does that apply to what we're doing? And how does that apply to the Muon model of like all of these IPs existing in a space that allows these things to be built? And again, the projects that I shouted out earlier are really great examples for the types of things that we can do, kind of this collector's mindset thing, and digital collectibles tied to real world assets, and, unlocking real world art that you can hang on your wall, like just all different sorts of, collectibles and things that can come from a brand, not just a character, not just a meme. So I love it. I think I love hearing your perspective on the gaming sector, because it gives me a lot of hope for what's next. And I feel like what's next is entertainment in the world of film and television, and how we are kind of riding the coattails of that adoption. There's a director that I know, his name is Harmony Korine. He founded a production company called Edgelord. Edgelord is pretty edgy. It's kind of like a skate brand, but they're also like a commercial agency. They do a lot of different styles of content, but whenever Harmony's been interviewed, his whole thing is like, we're kind of trying to figure out like what comes after movies is his whole idea. So if you think about it for a second, like, okay, what comes after movies? Like, movies are starting to evolve. We have new technologies like AI that can create these really interesting visuals in record time. So a lot of his films that they're making, and they make a lot of content for this very reason, kind of has this aspect of gaming and like almost virtual reality. And there's a lot of like really interesting integrations that I think he's trying to incorporate, and you can see where his brain is going. And that's where we're at. The funny thing about them is that they have no involvement in crypto, but they're kind of like at the doorstep of like, well, if you just unlock the door, all of this stuff becomes way more interesting. And I think that what we want to do is to kind of ride that wave of like, well, we're not just going to be another film franchise. It's got to be something that there needs to be a reason for us to be here and go through the friction of building in Web3, which, as we all know, there is plenty of it. So I think that, what Rain is saying is a really important thing for our community, for everyone in the audience to just remind yourself of. And that it's not only going to be, we talk about our 8-part series. It's not only going to be that. And how else do we integrate? How, do we go into games? Do we go into collectibles? Do we do NFTs? Like, all of this stuff is in the ballpark for us, because we're here and we have the capabilities of building these things. So Anurath, I feel like I saw you were about to jump in before. I feel like I cut you off. I'm sorry. But if you had anything
not at all.
If you had anything to add, please.
I think on the coattailed aspect of like, what do we want to see as you have like the Rockstar Games and like the big brands start to come in and like be on the doorstep of changing people's thought process around crypto? Like, that's actually the part that I think will help people have more confidence to come over and try and persevere through here. Like, we're missing those really big names splashing into crypto, right? Like that's the part that hasn't really happened yet. And having a rock star come in and just say, like, look, we can do it. Here's a roadmap. You're gonna just see some native trickle down other entrepreneurship and development in that same way. And I think the same thing is gonna happen the first time. You could argue it's already starting to happen because I know we talked about this last time, but like Flow and the indie filmmakers that are starting to show like, hey, I don't need your $300 million budget. But like, what happens when a studio sees this native group of people that can produce something at a very high rate and they start encouraging it? Well, the native thing that happens next is there are going to be other studios that build like that small studio that got noticed by the big person. And it's going to start what I hope and what I think you hope is this like indie revolution of content that is on chain that you're able to bring and show a different type of arguably what is going to be a global audience in a way that you don't really see in film as much now. And I think that's the other part around media and crypto that we don't talk a lot about. You could argue that the closest thing to that is actually Netflix right now and their multicultural, multi-language programming that they're making. Not just the stuff that they auto-dub now because AI can dub whatever they want for them, but you're seeing a growth in shows that purposely have two languages. And someone's going to have subtitles, going to be like English and Chinese or English and Japanese or English and Spanish or whatever it is. And it's because the world is smaller from an audience base.
Yeah.
Right. So how, if I am a creator, how am I not just creating for one regional demographic? I honestly think it's kind of crazy that this is just happening now because like the internet helped us connect and brought our world so much smaller. You could argue technology now is making it easier to understand foreign films, but also like the languages are melding.
Yeah.
And what I don't think we've actually seen is how that's going to translate the type of content that we're capable of making in crypto, which is a huge global market where everyone is interacting in the same thought process in a way that we're not doing so regionally now.
Right.
And that's the part where I think you have small IPs, adaptable infrastructure, adaptable businesses that can actually choose and turn and react and start building it. Like one of the things my boss has been talking about a lot lately is like, where do you see breakout IP coming from right now? And ultimately, it isn't from that long form content. It starts at small form content. You could argue it's the same thing as like the mini app to full app conversion that you're talking about, right? You start on short form content. You build a following of short term content. People then say, hey, this is really good. Why isn't there more of that? You then parlay that into an ability for them to support and grow that new longer form content. Longer form content translates into plushies and collectibles and other things, and that helps you proliferate. And then you have an opportunity to then go on to like short form Bluey content, which is 6 minutes, and you kind of just keep growing from there. And I would argue that crypto is uniquely placed, not just from a ownership standpoint, but that global audience perspective in finding something that could take hold in so many different demographic regions. Like there's a lot of atomic network like effects that can bubble up from that in a way you don't see in traditional media now. And like that's the part that's really starting to get me thinking a little bit differently around like not just how we create, but are we missing it a little bit in terms of what are we creating and what should we be creating? Because I can't think of my audience today as the audience I've been creating for as a filmmaker or as an animator the last 5 years. I think there's actually a really big opportunity to do something different there.
That's such a good point. The scalability, mobility, adaptability, like these big pillars of what allows you to grow and ride the wave as opposed to being like in the impact zone of the wave. And I think that everybody is learning. We're all trying to figure out kind of what it looks like to catch the wave and like be on the right side of it. But I think that the beauty of it is, and I love the idea of like a global audience being like really rolling into this adaptation and this huge onboarding of like the world of entertainment. Like there's a part of me still that draws a connection between like my affinity for foreign films and the fact that I'm even here in the first place, you know, thinking that it's actually plausible to build something in a worldwide, you know, like public way and not feel like I have to be kind of compartmentalized into like the studio system in like New York or LA or Austin or whatever it is. And thinking that, well, I can actually breach the confines of that, and it's not going to be easy at first, but being small and kind of being mobile is, I think, going to allow us to figure out where to slot in to, you know, I think the rails that really drive us to where we need to be within the Web3 space, because it's ever changing and because it's still very new. And I think that it's interesting. Like, we chose a format, which is 3D animation. We also chose a subject matter, which is Ebert, that completely disregards the use of language, spoken language, at least in certain capacities. If you've seen our proof of concept, there is a narrator. He speaks English, but he's not in it too much. I feel like the proof of concept is a little bit of a Trojan horse because the narrator's in it a lot and almost too much. And in a lot of the ideas of the writing, and Anaroth, you and I have talked about this, the writing is meant to be very expressive and kind of taken from, you know, experiences that are based, you know, for people in the audience, you know that like when it comes to my own personal experiences and specifically with mushrooms and psilocybin, a lot of the stuff that I've learned through that has made its way into Ebert's writing. And now I feel like that writing is evolving because we're finding new and interesting ways to kind of bring a lot of that information and experiential stuff into our world, and what kind of helps us create Ebert's world and share this universe with the world. You can't do that in a traditional system. You can't think in that way. You know, there's too much hierarchical stuff. There's too much bureaucratic red tape in the way. And I think that it allows us to explore new waves of content, not only from like the global audience standpoint, but from like the subject matter itself, and to start presenting ideas that are maybe, you know, not the easiest for people to digest, but maybe presented in a way that they've never experienced before. Every time you've ever seen like a documentary on psychedelics or anything like that, it tends to always kind of follow in this format of like, you know, person takes substance, substance has an effect on person, person has this crazy experience, and then we're out on the other side. But what if like all of the content just was the experience, you know? And like, what if we dispense of like the human input and dispense of the output that we're getting on the other side, and just try to present what that space looks and feels like? And I know that there are some artists out in the world who have tried to distill that down visually, but also sonically, and what you feel and hear and experience and what you interact with is all part of this. And I think that too, you know, really does find its way into our purpose, and what we're trying to accomplish with the content that we make is to kind of present this space that hasn't really been presented through this medium before, and also find a global audience because we're void of words. The language we speak is just through interpretation, expression, physicality, and just being super expressive with the format, which we can do now technically. So really, really good points to make. I love the perspective that you shared on it, Anaroth, because you have now really been a part of not only the Nouns movie, but also MFers, and really seeing kind of how these different ideas can take form and crystallize and find the world. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like they've done it in drastically different ways, but they've both found the world, right? And I think that that's really the big takeaway, is that there are a lot of different ways to skin the cat here.
I think there's a lot of different ways. Yes. I also think it's not media related, but I look at the recent like Apple decision on like App Store guidelines, like availability for crypto payments, and you see this large corporation, like they sent an appeal back saying like, hey, this is going to do irreparable harm to our business, blah, 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 blah. Like, you can see how large corporations aren't ready for like individual sovereignty over data.
Yeah.
Like, they're not, like, it has been that way for the last 30 years. And there's this like chink in the armor, and all of a sudden it's going to be possible for a lot of these like smaller creators, builders to have a say. And while a lot of people may not think that translates directly over to media, I actually think quite the opposite. Like as soon as there's something that changes around one of like the mammoth tech companies in our society, it's going to ripple out in every other way. And it's not going to just be apps. It's about how we facilitate everything and what we're able to do with it. Since you don't have a 30% tax on the App Store anymore, what does it mean as an individual to put your content up there as an alternative payment method? People can buy directly through there. They still get distribution of the App Store, but you're no longer giving 30% of your money to Apple. Like that is a really different business model. You're talking about everyone's like, oh, I'm losing 30% on tariffs. Okay, well, you can get 30% back on digital in this way that you couldn't get before.
Yeah.
Right. Like I would actually argue because of the tariff situation right now, digital goods have such a huge advantage, or digital infrastructure or digital economies have such a huge advantage right now because you're not dealing with any of that.
Yep.
Like you don't have to worry about any of it. Like I look at what we're making for Meat Quack, right? Like next thing that comes out is going to be digital. And like that is a very big different medium for us in terms of like when you think about revenue stream versus plushies and merch versus having this other thing now. And like again, we talked about building like the momentum that we're kind of seeing here. I would argue that some big corporations having some roadblocks, having that trickle down and actually create some new entrepreneurial stuff, like think about like Coinbase Mafia, like all the people from Coinbase way back when, there's a ton of them on Base right now.
Yeah.
They're all building their little mini startups. They're all building their little apps. They're building their own little companies. Like that same mentality is very much what I think is going to happen in media, in film, in animation. Like there is going to be this cascading impact that a lot of people are going to have new opportunities for the first time. They're going to take advantage of them. They're going to talk about them without fear of bringing up crypto, which I think is part of the media struggle we have now. Like if your goal is just to get eyes on your project, mentioning you have a token right away is probably not going to be the thing that onboards people onto your project.
Yeah.
Having good content, helping them understand what you're creating and where you're going, what it's going to be, is the appropriate onboarding. And I think as more people understand what's going to happen there and like what that means for the type of content we get to make and who's making it, it's going to make portraying it to the world a lot easier, right? Because having a world audience is hard. In the sense you're like, how do I cater to you? If I have a regional audience, it's easy. I know exactly. I have demographics. I have things that I've done marketing research. Yes. But I think if you can get small atomic networks digitally, worldwide, all focused on the same type of content or same medium or same whatever character, I don't think we've seen what success looks like that just yet. And it's going to happen. Like it's going to happen, whether it's Ebert or Quack or Nouns Movie or MFers, like it's going to happen in a way that I don't think people realize yet. And what happens once one is successful, you're going to see a huge domino effect. Yeah. I genuinely believe that. Like, it doesn't matter who's successful. It like zero shits which person actually gets that breakthrough moment. But once there is one, it's going to be hard for people to ignore that small digital first IP startups is how you find the next thing you want to actually make in a larger scale.
Agreed.
Because it's expensive. Why would you not want to test your new IP on animated content before you invest tens, 20s, hundreds of millions of dollars in it? Like, why hasn't it happened now? And I know it's kind of what you're building, right? Like that's part of the thought process behind your parent company, is to provide these other opportunities. So
exactly. Muon is the umbrella that has a go-to-market strategy in like the least frictional way as possible, right? We have this go-to-market strategy with characters that we can market test immediately, and that will tell us whether or not the juice is worth the squeeze or not. And I think that Ebert is our flagship, but he's also intended to create that ripple effect internally. I think what's also interesting to mention, that I'm going to actually tie it to something else that we have to talk about today, because I think we're actually getting pretty close to the hour. If not, we've maybe surpassed it already. But the big four streaming services, right? Apple, Netflix, Amazon, Max. I'm probably, am I missing anything? The big four. I think we have these kind of primary streaming services that have this, monopoly effect over all content that's reaching people's eyes today. But I think that there's also this secondary and tertiary market that have been forming around content that people are hungry for. Mubi is a good example of this. If you've ever heard of Mubi, Mubi is all about foreign films, international films, art films, all different sorts of esoteric short films, series, episodics, anthologies, everything that you really can't find or wasn't really licensed out to like the Netflixes of the world or the Amazons of the world, etc. I think that when you have that effect happening, obviously there's an appetite for something that's not reaching the masses, this big umbrella effect. But then what's also under that is I think all of these new streaming services like D-Hub, which is Urain is involved with D-Hub, and some of these businesses and companies that are trying to do these decentralized models of streaming to offer people these kind of tokenized ways of accessing content. And it's all coming. It's just being built. So I think we're in that wave of, a lot of these businesses being built. And when those businesses are, live and functioning and hoovering up content, they're going to be really hungry for new IP. And that's, I think, where these new IPs that have been building really start to slot in and say, okay, well, here's a 2-month agreement, whatever, for, licensing our 8-part series, whatever that is. Here's a 1-year agreement for, exclusive rights for this, or like whatever that may be. It's going to be retrofit to all of these for whatever works, but they all are coming. And I think that these big four companies that everyone knows, they're not the end of the road for how content finds the world. And I think that, how content finds the world and how projects find the world, how to get the eyes in Web3 seems to be really rooted in memes. And the way that people, seem to try and get attention is to create memes out of their characters. So I'm going to segue over to our comp. So we have a community competition happening, and this is going to be called the Muonic Meme Contest. Now, we've not normally called Ebert a meme in the past, but we can create them. And I think that what we've done in the past with community competitions and activations, with which I have to credit Rain for most of these, because he's the brains behind a lot of how we get our community engaged and how we get people hyped, is to kind of charge our community with the opportunity to be creative in some way. So what we're going to do is we're going to offer you a toolkit of expressions. And as you've seen, we've had a variety of expressions of Ebert, some of these 3D expressions that you've seen find social media and things like that, but I've held them back because what we'd like to do is a bit of a community contest for creating the best meme that you can based on these expressions. Now, in the past, people would take memes like the guy on the street looking at the girl, and his girlfriend's next to him getting all pissed off. They'd take that image and put their character in it and make their meme on top of that. For us, we're going to reframe the way that we think as a community, and we're going to make our own. And I think that the best ones will rise to the top. The best 3 memes will all win $50 in Ebert, and we're probably going to announce this next Friday on the show. And we'll share the memes, and we'll litter them all over X. Now, when it comes to this competition, you guys know how competitions have gone in the past. Normally, the submissions that we get are generally so good. And again, I'm just giving credit to our community. No credit to us. The submissions that we get are so good that we have to kind of scramble at the end and figure out new ways to reward people. So just know $150 in Ebert spread across 3 people is where we're starting. And as good as it gets, I'm sure that we can expand and maybe break through the ceilings on that type of a reward structure, because I just know that the Berts bring it. So there are going to be some specific design guidelines for you, because the way that we look at a community activation like this too is we want this art to kind of stand the test of time. We don't want to just do the activation and let the art disappear. We want to continue using these. So we know that we have a lot of capable designers and people who can use Canva and Illustrator and Photoshop and all those things in our community. So it needs to be on brand. It needs to look the way that it needs to look. So there's going to be a little bit of a design guideline ready for you. And we'll give you guys a week to make it happen and make the best memes that you can. It's going to be text-based, so it's really going to be the best joke paired with the best expression will rise to the top. And we'll know when we see them. So there's going to be I think we have about 20 expressions to give you. It'll be a toolkit format. So you jump into our Telegram and our Discord. There will be a download link that you can filter and trigger. Our mods and all of our team members are ready to share that out. And then a post will go up after the show. But I wanted to share it with everybody in the audience now so you get the sneak peek at what we're doing in case you wanted to get a head start. So that's going to be the Muonic meme contest. Rain, what do you think? We're not trying to be a meme, but we're trying to create the memes. Is that an important distinction to make, or does it really not matter at the end of the day?
I think it matters. I think it definitely matters, especially, it hasn't been done in this exact scenario, right? Like, people have done this shit with like Pepe and OKEgg and like all the fucking, main derivatives, etc. But what I'll say is, because I'm going to be voting, and obviously my vote will count like a million times more than anything else, of course. Just kidding, guys. We're fair here, of course. What I'll say is it really gives an opportunity to show the creative storytelling behind Ebert, Like, I really want you guys, like, I'll say this, like, don't half-ass it. I'll just put it bluntly. Like, you can get super creative and have a lot of fun with this, and it will shine brighter than all the half-ass shit, that's out there with people trying to reskin memes, etc. Because it really ties into like what Ebert is, and it's a speculation. So like, again, like, yeah, the guy with the girl, I'll do that one. The guy with the girl, and he's looking back, and he's looking at the other girl, and the other girl sees him looking at the girl. You could have Ebert, and the girl's looking at Ebert like, huh? And Ebert's looking, and maybe it's like, a guy with like a lightning bolt tattoo, or a girl with a lightning bolt tattoo on her neck, and he's like, oh shit, whoa, whatever. You know what I'm saying? There's all sorts of fucking ideas. Like, you could do the little girl in front of the burning house, and it could be Ebert, and he's like kind of thinking like, basically it's Ebert, and like he's thinking like this with like a confused look, and like it paints a picture for the lore of Ebert to be like, okay, wait, did Ebert actually do that on accident? Does he not know what the fuck's going on? Because that's Ebert. Is he in danger? He probably doesn't even realize he's in danger. If he's in danger, that's like the really fun part of it. So what I'd say is like, yes, great activation. It's going to be huge, obviously, for like algorithmic stuff and just overall brand awareness and all that jazz at a very, important time. But have fun with it. I'll say play into the story of Ebert. Try to create a story and narrative through the meme using Ebert, and inject whatever creative juices you have into visualizing that story with Ebert. That's what I'll say.
Just make it Muonic, and it can be
make it Muonic.
Make it Muonic. That's how we do it. Go crazy with it. And again, a big part of the challenge is going to be how you pair the words with the expression that you have in front of you, right? So like, what do you think that he's trying to say through the expression, and how can you create humor out of that? Also, shout out to Anaroth, quick Superman costume change, very impressive.
Yeah, that was crazy. That was
like 5 seconds. It was like,
We're ready.
And doing that live on show was bold. Like,
that
you forgot to like
was impressive.
Camera off or something. Get a little strip show. I love it. Well done, Anaroth. This is Web3, baby.
This is gonna be.
We
good,
live on
though.
the edge, sir.
This is gonna.
We
be
live
good.
on the edge.
Rain was okay. So Rain mentioned something important too, and again, I don't like to be coy, but I also think that we may need these in a couple weeks, if that makes sense. We may need to be ready with consistently branded content that we can just push out to the world within the next couple weeks. And if you're an HB, you probably know what that means. But at the same time, we just want to be armed and ready with stuff that's on brand, stuff that looks tight, and stuff that is funny and enjoyable to look at, that showboats how our character is like approachable and funny and light and whatever you want to make it. But we're excited. So the post will go out after the show. I'm gonna just spend a few minutes, make sure everything is ready, that the links are ready for all the assets, and then you guys can download them, have fun with them, and absolutely go crazy. But then beyond that, I think that's all I had for Space of the Deep. Really, the Muonic meme contest was the one thing I had to make sure I got in, just because it was an announcement we've been talking about for a few days. But I also these conversations are always so interesting. These conversations about this industry shift, these conversations about what that shift really looks like, and how all of these different kind of disparate players start to factor into that shift. And every time I have these conversations with you, Enneroth, with you, Rain, with you, Jake, I really am able to kind of remind myself that we are a part of that shift. You know, we're not playing on the outside of the fence. We are on the field, like in the action, and creating the rules that we need to create. I think that the reason sometimes this feels hard, and the reason that it's hard to convince people to believe in us, is that there's a barrier to understanding the simplicity of what we're trying to make, and we're right there. And I think that we're in the trenches, we're on the battlefield trying to make that messaging as clear as possible. And it's a really good reminder to just see the big picture of things and get that 10,000 foot view from you, Enneroth, and hear about the gaming industry and the onboarding there from you, Rain, and then to get that technical background from you, Jake. So thanks to the three of you for bringing your thoughts, for bringing your perspectives. This episode was called Non-Dual. I would recommend everybody go up and look up what non-dual existence means, because basically this episode was kind of an entangled, like, synchronicity type episode where we're all coming from the same place. We're all really the same at the end of the day, just trying to make great art and be creative and help each other just prosper and be successful, because we believe in each other. We want to see each other rise, and what's the saying? When the tide rises with all ships, right? It's like tide rises with all ships. One of those things, one of those euphemisms.
Rising tide lifts all boats.
Thank you.
I got you, sir.
That Pirates of the Caribbean?
Yeah, some Pirates of the Caribbean references, but it's true.
Might be.
It's true. I want to see. I want to see you all get it.
It.
I want to see the good people get it, and all of you guys in the audience. I just shouted out a few of you in the audience: Des, Meyer, HG, Prince, H&R Savage, MJ, Addy. We want to see you guys get it too. So stick around. It's going to be a really great next few weeks. The market is in a really good position to continue rising. I think that things are looking great. We're at a good point in the project, and I'm excited about these next steps, and this community contest is going to be a fun one. So anything else from you fellas before we break off for the outro song?
Pray for my golf game.
Oh, that's what it is. He's ready for golf. Hit the course, baby. Enjoy it. I'm terrible at golf, but I'm sure that we'll be playing golf one day.
I am terrible at golf too, but we're absolutely going golfing. We're absolutely going golfing when you come visit one time, my guy. Like, absolutely, that needs to happen.
It's gonna happen.
Could we bowl? I'm a little better at bowling.
We can do bowling.
As well. That's an option as well. Or disc golf, maybe. I bet Jake is a mean disc golf.
I'm bad at bowling, but I'll take the L there. It's all good as long as I can have a beer. Everything's fine.
We're good.
True.
You can't. Okay, so then
Jake, are you
on my end, we're gonna have to do some surfing as well. So we got golfing on one end, we got bowling, and then you.
Great, I'm with you. We'll both fail miserably at surfing, so we're good. All right.
Okay, you guys ready for this?
You
guys want to take some? Okay, here we go. We're gonna take some mushrooms together. That's what we're all gonna do. We're gonna vibe in consciousness. You can't win or you can't lose. You just have to experience, baby.
That's Jake's sport, baby. Experience. That's Jake's sport.
There's no competition. I'm down. I mean, I'm down. I'm thinking. I was like, how can I win? How can I create something crazier? Okay,
you can take another mushroom. There you go.
That's true.
Keep going if you want.
Maybe we'll play that. Whoever sees Eber first wins. Maybe we'll do that strategy. I like that.
Go.
Hey, that's a good one.
I love it.
That would be actually interesting.
I love it.
Yeah, we should talk about that maybe on an episode one day.
Yeah, that'd be fucking funny.
How do you find him?
Like actually doing it. Yeah.
Let's go find that little fucker. Can't find. I mean,
I got 100 solar panels outside, all fully charged, while playing multiple movies. in consuming mushrooms until Ebert appears for the movie he likes.
Hey, you know,
That'd be my summoning.
it's a good
Probably
place.
my
To,
summoning
it's a
strategy.
good place to start. It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
I love it. Well,
I go to
Anaroth,
New
enjoy the game. Good luck, Rain. We love you, Jake. We love you. Thank you guys for being here for episode 28 of Space from the Deep. We'll see you guys next week for episode 29. Have a good weekend, everybody. Go touch some Earth.
See you next week.
No, you were in.
Transmitting live from the edge of the unknown. This is Space from the Deep. With your cosmic guides. Ebert, Jake Wave, and Rain Raps. Explorers of origin, purpose, and everything in between.